When the first Westerners arrived in India, they were shocked. What they saw all around them was totally incomprehensible, a madness. The ideas they held about religion and gods were completely different from what they encountered here, worlds apart from their own. They were confused, and confusion gave rise to mockery, and that's what they did in the beginning. But as centuries passed, they slowly began to understand the depth of it, a spiritual science called Hinduism. Today, over 1 billion people identify as Hindu across the globe. It's often said the tradition is over 10,000 years old. But if you asked 100 Hindus what they believe in, you'd likely get 100 different answers. And that is the essence of Hinduism. Different for every person. A way of life rather than a religion. Different for every Hindu themselves. So is there a central philosophy? A core that binds it all together? That's what we're going to dive into today. Hinduism says, there is Brahman, the ultimate infinite reality, the eternal formless source of all existence. It is not a god, but the divine essence that pervades everything. It is beyond time, space, and thought. It's where everything starts and ends, but it neither has a beginning nor an end. It has always been there, and it always will be. It's something, if it's a thing at all, that can never truly be pictured. Then there is Atman, a piece that came out of Brahman, also known as Atma. It is not a soul as widely understood, but the true self, the divine, unchanging essence within every being. It is not your personality, thoughts, emotions, or ego, but the pure consciousness that witnesses all of that. And this Atman enters Maya, the cosmic illusion. Maya is the powerful force that makes the world of appearances seem real, while hiding the deeper truth of reality. The Atman is surrounded by the body, and it only reveals itself through consciousness. Consciousness then interacts with the body, and the body engages with Maya. With each layer of interaction, karma is generated. So what is karma actually? Karma means action, but more specifically, it refers to the universal law of cause and effect. If you do good and live with good intentions, you create positive karma. If your actions are harmful or negative, you generate negative karma. Hinduism believes that your every act, whether mental, physical, or emotional, is registered in a cosmic ledger where everything eventually balances out. Hinduism teaches that when the body dies, the Atman is reborn, reincarnated based on the karma it has gathered. There are 6 broad realms of existence: aquatic life, plants, insects, birds, animals, and humans. Of these, only the human form carries free will. Only in human form can we generate new karma and have the power of choice, the ability to be aware of themselves, reflect, change, or sin. When a body dies with unbalanced karma, it is reborn into lower forms of life, like animals or insects. In those forms, the soul cannot make conscious choices, so it cannot earn positive karma. It simply experiences and gradually burns off negative karma from previous lives, because the soul in such forms isn't self-aware in the way humans are. According to this karmic balance, the cycle of reincarnation goes on and on until the end of time, keeping you trapped in an endless loop. This is why being born human is not a coincidence. It is an opportunity, as taught in Hinduism, a rare window where the Atman can recognize itself, wash away its karmic burdens, and break free from the endless wheel of rebirth, suffering, and longing. Hinduism says that if your karma is good enough, you will encounter a guru, a spiritual teacher who guides you to the scriptures, your roadmaps to liberation. In Hinduism, there are 2 types of scriptures, Shruti and Smriti. where Shruti is the scripture not composed by humans, but heard from the cosmic source and passed down orally for generations. The Vedas and Upanishads are examples of this. On the other hand, Smriti refers to texts that were composed by humans, inspired by divine truths, and passed down through memory and writing. For example, the Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Puranas. With the wisdom of these scriptures, you begin to awaken. You realize that this world, this life, is part of a vast karmic cycle, a trap of suffering and rebirth. And with this realization comes the desire to break the wheel of karma and return your Atman to its true home. This liberation is called moksha in Hinduism, the final return, the ultimate goal of Atman or every Hindu. But not everyone will awaken. Many Atman will wander for eons, repeating cycles of life and death, caught in illusion and confusion, never realizing their true nature. Well, that's one part. On the other hand, Hinduism also views time as cyclical, where the universe is continuously created, expanded, destroyed, and reborn in an eternal cycle. This cosmic cycle is further divided into four main eras, known as yugas: Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dvapara Yuga, Kali Yuga, the age we are in now. It says that under this wheel of cosmic ages, your Atman is trapped in your own karmic cycle. To put it all into perspective, Hinduism speaks of the ultimate truth, Brahman, the all-pervading divine energy from which each of us as Atman was born. This Atman enters samsara or maya, the cycle of illusion and rebirth, bound by its own karma, where suffering is an inherent part of the journey. Yet it teaches. Suffering itself pushes the soul to seek freedom. Pain and rebirth aren't punishments. They are lessons. When the soul evolves, learns, and seeks truth, it can break free. And notice, no gods have been mentioned yet. No temples, no idols, because Hinduism is not built on the worship of deities, it's built on understanding reality. That's what makes it timeless. It doesn't rely on any external structure. It cannot be destroyed, because it is not a being, but an idea, and ideas cannot be killed. So, if all this is true, where do the gods come in? The gods we picture in physical form, worshipped as personal, judgmental divine beings, a third-eyed deity with serpents around his neck and a crescent moon in his hair, or a fierce goddess with skulls around her neck walking naked. Where did these images come from? These were not part of the earliest teachings. The answer is simple. They came later, out of necessity. Visualizing Brahman became nearly impossible because it is formless, infinite, and beyond all attributes. This made it incredibly difficult for people to grasp or connect with the concept. As a result, about 330 million images of gods were created, each with specific roles and purposes, to make the formless divine relatable, to express spiritual truths through symbols, and to guide people emotionally and devotionally on the path to liberation. In essence, gods in Hinduism are just metaphors, representations, not literal beings. They were never meant to imply the actual existence of separate divine entities. In other words, gods do not exist in Hinduism, at least not in the way we usually imagine. And if you can directly grasp the concept of Brahman in your heart and live by it, then worshipping its images becomes completely unnecessary.